So I built some businesses, I sold some businesses, and as a result, in my early 30s, I became a self-made millionaire. And she ran back to me as fast as those little legs could carry her. And she goes, Daddy, she goes, since you can no longer be a provider for us, I'll start doing it.
And I hope it's not going to be back to normal. I hope people will still have this feeling that yes, there is a life. I mean, business is a game.
I really see myself as an explorer of ideas and knowledge and a collector who brings it back into my business.
Good morning, Mike.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for waking up so early. And thank you very much for really giving us your time, because I know this is the time when, first of all, your recent book is just out. Yes, it was, I think, April, if I'm not mistaken, fix that first. And then you're a busy man. I mean, to find a slot in your schedule, even in time of coronavirus, is not that easy.
It's my joy. It's interesting, the demand for the work I do and so many other authors has increased with this coronavirus because I think we're more accessible. You know, I used to, if I spoke at an event, it's a day to travel to the event, I speak, I travel back. But now, theoretically, you could do 5 or 6 events a day. So it's a great opportunity in that regard for folks like me to share our experience and knowledge. And I do want to apologize. It is early morning here. There's a construction crew cleaning out trees right across. So you may hear some background noise. So.
Well, just say the less polished the videos are, the more authentic they are. And, you know, I even had, I don't know whether you know Scott Friedman, a very good friend of mine, and I was having an interview with him, and he said, "Oh, I need some water," and he stood up, and he was wearing shorts. You know,
at least he was wearing something, you know.
Yeah, that's exactly. So, and I thought, well, how wonderful, and then we decided to leave it. So, but yes, you are known first of all that you are really true entrepreneur. I mean, you started your first company when you were 24, and since then you were building up companies, you were really making, doing things yourself, not just reading them as some other people do from books and then talking about it based on their theoretical experience. You're a hardcore entrepreneur, so which is great. And then you turn out to be a writer, which actually, I know the answer, but I would like to ask you, why did you decide to move into that really not that easy area of writing and then talking?
No, but I felt it was my life's calling. In fact, I'll show you a little thing. Here's a video for you. Right there, it says eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. That's my life's mission. I had a realization.
I love it. We can talk about that. I love the.
Yeah, we can talk about that. I had a realization about that. And that's why I became a writer. So I built some businesses, I sold some businesses. And as a result, in my early 30s, I became a self-made millionaire. And just thought I knew everything. I thought I was so smart. I really was full of myself. I'm embarrassed to admit that now, but it's the truth.
You know, and 10 years from now you will say the same thing about today.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? We always reflect back, and we can be honest about ourselves. I couldn't accept it back then, so I thought I knew everything about entrepreneurship. So I started a third business where I was an investor in businesses. If you had an idea that sounded half interesting, I would invest, not because of the idea, but because I was here, right? That's how much I believed in myself. I was full of myself. Well, I made bad investment after bad investment, and I was not good at what I was doing. I was too diverse. I was in all different industries, from manufacturing to services and everything in between. And it took me only 2 years, but I lost all the wealth I'd accumulated with my prior businesses. As a result, I got a call from my accountant I'll never forget the day. It was February 14th. We celebrate Valentine's Day. And he said to me, he's like, I suggest you declare bankruptcy. He's like, I saw my bank account dwindling. And while logically I saw it dwindling, emotionally I hadn't accepted yet until that morning. He says, you have to immediately declare bankruptcy or abruptly change your life. I decided to do that. I didn't feel bankruptcy was the way out, to put my responsibility on other creditors. It was my fault, but I lost my house, my possessions, my cars and stuff.
Were you
I went to
married?
my family. I have 3 children and my
Oh,
daughter. And
you've been married.
I'm married. Yeah, 3 kids. They're adults now. But back then, this was in 2008. My daughter was 9 years old, and I went to her with my family. I was sobbing because we were losing our house. We lost it 30 days after I told him. I told my daughter, she likes to ride horses. And I told her, you can't go horseback riding anymore, even though it was nominal. It was $20 for a group
Oh,
session with other children once every couple of weeks. But I was broke. As I told her this, she stood up and she ran out of the room. And she's starting to get
yeah,
upset
it's
if I think about it too much.
girlfriend.
What happened was I thought she was running away from me because I wanted to run away from me. I got it. I was embarrassed to be a father who couldn't provide. And that's what we do as business owners. We're providers for our family, our community, our country, our collective world. And I stole away from her. But she wasn't running away from me. She actually ran to her bedroom to grab her little piggy bank. And she ran back to me as fast as those little legs could carry her. And she goes, Daddy, Daddy. She goes, since you can no longer be a provider for us, I'll start doing it. And she put on the table. And I was ashamed and embarrassed, honored that she would do that. And that became a seed of change. And by the way, just to be very clear, it wasn't like the next day I said, now I'm going to be an author. Now I'm going to serve entrepreneurs. No, next day I started to drink a lot, way too much. And I continued that on for a couple of years. Wasn't sleeping well. But it did become a seed for writing. I started to write down my thoughts about entrepreneurship as I was going through this time, trying to figure out what really makes entrepreneurship successful, how to simplify it. And as I was writing, I noticed, oh my gosh, I'm writing books. I then devoted myself to being an author. So today, I'm a full-time author, writer. You can see some of my books there. There's others that I write. And I am on this mission to eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. This poverty, where we start a business with great intentions, but we struggle. We have no time. We work constantly. We have no money. You, I, everyone listening is a provider for the global economy. If we fail, the economy fails. We must succeed. And therefore, it starts with us. And my commitment is to close this gap and have us be as successful as we envisioned ourselves to be.
Right. Can you tell us more about this poverty, entrepreneurial poverty? Because it's really, it resonates so much in me, because I'm not in that shoes anymore, because I was management development consultant and I was flying. One year it was more than 200 flights. Can you imagine? More than 200 flights. And I felt so good about myself. I was sort of Clooney, in Gennady's form. And, I was like boasting with my miles, air miles, and all this rubbish. And then I realized that I'm losing my life.
Yeah.
I'm losing everything. I'm losing just because of work and the ego,
Right. Yeah. The ego is a big part. I think there's multiple facets to entrepreneurial poverty. When we start a business, people who are not entrepreneurs, who are just workers, here we're starting a business and their conclusion instantly is, oh, now you're rich. Now you don't work. You just go on vacation and enjoy beer. And that's what you do. And that's the perception. The reality is we start a business and we have very little money. We're making no money. We have no time, entrepreneurial poverty. We're exhausted. And this gap of what the world perceives us to be and what we're experiencing is what I call entrepreneurial poverty. So my mission in my books is to close this, that we realize our lives are not to support a business. Our business is to support our lives.
Right.
That our business, we should get wealthy, we should get rich. And I'm not saying out of an ego standpoint, but the more wealth we accumulate, the more we can empower the community. Of the world population, only 7% of people will ever start a business, become an entrepreneur. 93% of the population will work for business owners or someone that started a business. Our responsibility is to not work. It's to empower others to work. Our responsibility is to accumulate wealth so that we can share in the wealth and that we can serve others. That gap When we're doing all the work and we're not making money from what we should be doing, it's what I call entrepreneurial poverty. And my commitment is to eradicate every flavor of it. And let me share this too. It's not only money. It's not only a poverty of time. It's a poverty of vision and purpose.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? So many entrepreneurs, like, they have this great purpose we want to serve.
Tunnel of vision, yeah.
Yeah, and then tunnel vision. And it's about, hey, at least I got 200,000 miles in or whatever. Like, we start having this focus, this tunnel vision, this perversion toward little insignificant things. I've got 50,000 Twitter followers. Who cares? Who cares? It's all about, why do we feel we were put on this planet? It can be self-given or God-given. You can define that. But why are you on this planet? Are you serving that capacity through your business? If not, there's a poverty of purpose. So there's many flavors of it. And my commitment is to eradicate all the forms of poverty.
And many, many forms of poverty as well. For example, I never forget, once I took, friends of mine, very kind of serial entrepreneurs, British guys, I took them to the Valley, Bolshoi Theater. And they said, wow, Gennady, we've never, ever went to the Valley. We don't go to the theaters. We don't, appreciate art. And because, it's not like it doesn't bring us, the same buzz as what our business brings. And then we don't have time, we don't have energy, we don't have interest. And then you definitely go down the hill, because you are, this tunnel vision leads you to kind of, it's like, it's not a comfort zone as such, but
Yes.
It's something which is like killing you really. And
That's an excellent observation, because we as entrepreneurs, our job is to bring a vision to reality. Here's the great irony. I think for many entrepreneurs, the greatest day of their life is the day before they start their business.
Mm-hmm.
With this grand vision,
excitement and all this.
The excitement, and I'm really going to change the world. And then we're thrust into the day-to-day survival. Tunnel vision ensues, and the rest of life is excluded. Yet it's the rest of life that gives us insights to improve our business.
Exactly.
It's something that, by experiencing in the ballet, for example, you may discover something there that you can interpret into your business and expand and improve your business and be of greater service. We need to be the great explorers and bring back the treasures of knowledge to our business. And with tunnel vision, we just start repeating the same process. We start to resent our business. That's the worst. When we actually hate what we've created. I call that the Frankenstein monster.
Mm-hmm.
You stitch together these different elements, you bring something to life, which is miraculous, and then it consumes you. That is what, sadly, many businesses become unnecessarily.
And that brings another point, that we have to focus on the process, not the end result. And there are more and more of that, because, I kind of socialize with a lot of guys who are thinkers like Joe Vitale, John Kehoe, etc.
Yeah.
And they're saying that focus on the process. Enjoy the process. You have to enjoy life. And your goal of building up empire or whatever can turn out to be, okay, you achieved it, and then what? You've got no one, and to share it with. So I think this is it's another kind of dimension of this poverty. I like Simon Sinek said that you are a patron saint of entrepreneurs. And I loved it, because he's such a respected guy. And saying that, it's really because in all your books, there comes a clear message that entrepreneurship should be respected, and entrepreneurs themselves should take care of themselves and change their focus and be more, really, as you said, bringing to communities, have life instead of just working and working and working.
Yeah, Simon, and he and I, we both wrote our first book at the same time. He wrote Start With Why, exploded in success.
Yes.
I wrote a book called The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur that kind of fizzled along, but it performed enough.
You're too modest. It was good. I mean, the name stuck, and people thought, what is kind of...
Yeah, it's a little crazy.
Its name for the book.
Yeah, actually, I'm working on a brand new book now about the necessity to differentiate, to stand out in a market, to actually cause confusion or interest so that people can't ignore you. And so he and I started at the same time. And when I wrote my most recent book, Fix This Next, which identified, I think, the most important thesis I've come up with yet. And it's that the biggest challenge entrepreneurs face is knowing what their biggest challenge is. We think everything is equally important when there can only be one most important thing at any time. So how do we find that? So I reached out to Simon and said, hey, blast from the past. We haven't spoke in almost 10 years. Would you be willing to check out my book and endorse it? And he came back with the most flattering endorsement. It doesn't hurt that we share the same publisher and this. So we are we run into each other at this one particular publishing house because we share the same publisher. So that didn't hurt. But when he said that, it was not something I requested or anything. I just said, tell me what you feel. When he wrote that, to me, that was another form of acknowledgement of the importance of that purpose to eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. When someone of his exposure and stature in this industry is recognizing the work I'm doing as important and significant, to give such a flattering title simply meant to me I got to double down and push harder than ever to serve the entrepreneurial community.
Right. Yes. Wonderful. So now, there's a current time is really very challenging, to put it mildly. Nobody really knows exactly how did the thing happen. There are a lot of conspiracy theories and whatever. But the reality is that really business are closing down, and people who were going and building up something, they couldn't do that. They couldn't launch their business because of for obvious reasons. What advice you can give entrepreneurs? Because I think they were hit the hardest. Everybody was hit hard, but for entrepreneurs, for a lot of them, it meant losing of the dream, in fact, to become,
Yeah, I used to say that small business is the backbone of the global economy. And I've changed that. Now I say that small business is the economy. Like, as we go, so does the entire global economy. This situation we're experiencing necessitates our success. We have to be successful. The analogy I use is we, small business, were walking down the street back in March, early March, and saying, things aren't too bad. I'm working hard, and I can be better than this. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, out of the corner of some alley, the world came in. It punched us in the face. We've a black eye, a blood coming out our nose, we got a loose tooth. And the world said, hey, now that I have your attention, I need you to save me. I believe the economy, and I'm slanted toward the US because I know that most intimately, but there's recently been a very destabilized economy already in the US, but I think globally too. So there's this bubbling below the surface, but we don't notice. Now the pandemic kicks in and businesses are shut down, and you see all these other problems that are tensions that are presenting themselves in the US in particular. And I think there's more tension that's going to come out of this. The solution, and I've studied every recession back to 1929, which was the Great Depression in the US and globally. And there's always been a trigger event. Something happens, a move to the gold standard, the OPEC oil crisis. There's the terrorist attacks in the US and globally. Like, there's certain things that happen and they cause the destabilized economy to present itself, and then people panic.
Triggered, yeah.
Yeah. So the way out of this is going to be small business innovation. I believe we're not going to return back to exactly how it was. There's going to be new needs. There's going to be new ways to serve. There's going to be new opportunities. Small business can change faster than big business. So if anyone's going to adjust to this economy and serve, it's going to be small business. And I know we're going to see companies, we have no idea who they are today. 1 year from now, they're going to be the next Googles or whoever they are. It's like, where did they come from? They came from innovation. They came from a willingness to change. So it stinks that we have a black eye and a bloody nose and we're stunned. The mistake is just to start walking again. We can't. We have to say, what can I do now? How can I serve in a new way? We have to ask our past customers and patrons, how can I serve you now? And when we start adjusting to the new needs, we have opportunity for rapid growth. So I do think there's great opportunity in front of us if we don't stay stunned and frightened.
Interesting. I mean, you didn't mention, that's another book which I read. I think it's called Surge.
Yes.
When business, you have to kind of surf the waves of consumer demand and get and I love the concept. And I think it's very much important now because consumer demand changed. I mean, I don't think that there is a big demand for luxury goods, for example. I was told that Louis Vuitton burned down their latest collection. So because there is no demand for that, and they didn't want, of course, to give it away. At the same time, I spoke to Martin Lindstrom, branding, and he was telling me about the toilet. That, let's say, toilet. What can be more, added to toilet seat, etc. And I said, the Japanese company Tato, I think, created a toilet which analyzes your leftovers and gives you feedback instantly. And there are so many things, and because people care more about their health, their immune system, so there are a lot of opportunities really which would make us which will satisfy our new demand, basically, really, and to find those demands, and this requires an art and
It does. It does. I think one thing we can do, though, that we often don't do is simply ask. Ask our customers, how may I serve you now? Or what do you need now? Now, they may not know the exact answer, but they will know the problems they're facing, the needs. What needs do you have? Famously, Henry Ford, the inventor of the automobile, he said, if I asked my customers what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. Indicating that they don't know what they need. But in there, they said the problem, the horse is not fast enough. I need faster transportation. So they did give the answer.
Right.
And our customers will tell us what they need. I want to be healthier. They're not going to know how to go about it. I need access to travel in a new way, or I need remote connections. I don't know what it's going to be, but we have to ask them what do they need now, or perhaps a better question is, what challenges do you need solved now? And then our job is to find the solution. And the beautiful thing is, there's a restaurant, for example, we have restaurants all throughout our area shut down. They're still shut down. And one restaurant said, many of the restaurants said, I guess we're done. We're out of business. Gosh, the construction outside is getting loud.
I don't hear it, so it's okay.
Oh, good. Okay. It's really loud. So I'm just going to turn my volume so I can hear you. So one restaurant here said, we're going to reach out to our past patrons, past customers, and ask them, what do you need now? Well, these patrons said, we loved your menu items. We can't wait to have your menu items again. Many restaurants were interpreting that patrons were going to wait until they opened. This restaurant said, we will sell you our recipes. We'll sell you the menu items. And they started selling recipes and even cooking classes. And that's become very successful for them. We have to ask what the challenge or problem is.
And the restaurants even could sell ingredients, I believe.
And they could sell ingredients, exactly.
So they're acting as supermarkets then.
Yeah. There's a lot. So the funny thing is this one restaurant is teaching even cooking classes. So over Zoom, you can watch a cooking class. They provide you with the ingredients. And now the margins, the profitability they make is so much greater. It's one chef doing a demonstration, and they have all these subscriptions, these customers who've now connected remotely. But the customer likes it even more too, because they're cooking at home, celebrating. They have something to do now, but they also now have a chance to see their neighbors because we have this social distancing. People can't see each other. Now they can virtually. So it's been a massive win for that restaurant.
Yeah, it's interesting. And of course, such companies as Zoom and Party, and they say you can have a party online now. People can dance in different locations and click, the glasses, and so amazing. And I think one thing which went up, I mean, people are mentioning sex toys and toilet paper as big demand during coronavirus. And I think books, sales of books went up. I mean, books and online books as well. I think went up dramatically.
Yeah, so it was interesting because I watch books acutely. I watch it very specifically. So in the business genre, the day March 15th hit, book sales dropped, and they've slowly been recovering and recovering. Here's what's so fascinating. Right now in the US, the most popular books are people seeking understanding around racism and elitism, and how to bring equality. That actually warms my heart to see that the top selling books are about eradicating, maybe you can't eradicate, but bringing about equality or greater equality. So in books, you can see what people are interested in. Go back from when we're recording this, go back a month ago or 2 months ago, the number one books were actually children's books because parents are at home. They're with their kids. So you see all these educational and children's books. So it's very interesting. Books are a great indicator of people's immediate interest. And business books have returned to, at least for me, to near normal, but not normal sales. But it's strong. And I'm happy to see entrepreneurs are investigating how to improve their businesses.
It's interesting. A lot of my friends, after initial shock and then happiness, that they kind of accepted that they lost a lot of money, there is no income, but they gain relationship. They gain back their kids. They started their lives. And that's kind of more in value than, extra, 100, whatever, thousands you could earn during that time. But now, things are getting back to normal. And I hope it's not going to be back to normal. I hope people will still have this feeling that, yes, there is a life. I mean, business is a game. I mean, it's important thing, but it's not your life. Kind of a relationship much more important. Your kids are more important than just your endless working hours.
Oh yeah, and I don't believe. I used to believe in that. I used to believe business was about working relentlessly, and I had this perverted pride in showing how long I could work. But now I've come to realize that it's really about giving other people opportunity. That my job is to give other people opportunity. My job is to see a mission through. And my job is to do it as efficiently and as effectively as possible, because that frees up time to enjoy the other elements of life, being with family and stuff, and exploring life, going to the ballet or whatever it is, and bringing in this collective knowledge back to the business. I really see myself as an explorer of ideas and knowledge and a collector who brings it back into my business. And I love my work. I mean, I think the blessed entrepreneur is the one who says, I can't wait to get into the office in the morning. And then when they're heading home, they can't wait to get home. When we're excited about coming to work and excited about returning back home, that is a great balance, I think. And I'm lucky to be experiencing that for quite a few years now.
Now, unfortunately, I think there's another kind of problem that work and life gets mixed.
Gets blended.
We do a lot of stuff online, and we have to really separate, because you cannot, what I found myself that, I'm doing a lot of interviews and I'm telling my daughter, could you please, leave me alone?
Oh, right.
And then I'm kind of back to my old shoes when I'm father who is doing important thing, but he cannot play with, my two small girls. And so it's wrong again. So
I agree that's a real challenge. And, technology has made that a challenge. It wasn't that way 50 years ago. I remember my father coming home and he was home. Like, he would read the newspaper, he was home. There was occasions he would work at home where he was doing some paperwork, but that I can remember once or twice in my entire childhood. But now, of course, with technology, you can turn on work within a millisecond, anytime, anywhere. So now it's a discipline. We have to commit to living life and commit to those elements. But, the reverse happens too. We're at work and life sneaks into work. It's like, oh, I'll go on social media for a little bit. I'll surf the internet for a little bit. We need to really be disciplined about this, I believe. What I try to do is I block out time. I block out my schedule. So I have very specific things I am committed to doing at specific times. Additionally, so I don't bleed into the afternoon or evening and just keep working, I'll set up an appointment to see my wife, or set up an appointment to go to the gym to exercise. And that is such a shift in what I've been doing with work. Now I'm on back to normal life and I go home from the gym. So I need to schedule those things to commit to not letting work bleed into life.
Right. And you have another great quality, which I knew that before, that you're a good writer, but there are a lot of very great writers and very boring, personalities in terms of talking. And you're very articulate. And
thank you.
I love your, presentations, when you keynotes, when you seminars, master classes, because you are very genuine. You're very, really kind of open to people, and you smile a lot, and you're cracking jokes, and you're obviously enjoying it as much as writing. And that's kind of a serious combination, which is not that common.
Thank you. Thank you. So I believe that authorship is a representation of an idea, that writing is putting it in words and speaking is saying it on stage, but authorship is the accumulation of really being a proponent for an idea. That's what I consider it. I love speaking because there's such a connection. I love live speaking. So it was on stage because there's a connection with others. You get immediate feedback. And I really consider it a performance. I consider it like a one-person show. And writing, what I love about writing is that when something's put in the written word, it almost takes on this magical power of being more impactful, more absorbable. When I present an idea, whatever it may be, to a friend and say, oh, you got to take your profit first. It'll change your life. It's different than when I give them a book and say, this will teach you how to change your life by taking your profit first. There's something magical that happens. So I have absolute respect for the written word, and I have the same degree of reverence for the stage.
It's interesting because you have non-verbal communication, or body language and your emotions and your eyes and the way you walk, along the stage. It's used as sometimes convey the message strongly, or better maybe than through the lines of your book, and vice versa. So what I'm saying is different methods. Yeah.
You know what I found out is I remember someone saying, Mike, tell me some of the greatest speakers in U.S. history. So I said, in U.S. history, well, Martin Luther King had some very famous speeches, Abraham Lincoln, And then the person said, name one PowerPoint they used. It's like, never. It was simply the spoken word. It was their, what they call gesticulation, their movements, the tonality of their voice, the way they stood. That conveys more power than a PowerPoint slide deck flashing in the background. Exactly. The greatest speakers rely on themselves. Exactly. I wouldn't argue I'm one of the greatest speakers, but I would argue I'm taking ideas from the greatest speakers and not relying on those elements, but really the spoken word and acting and performing the communication as opposed to trying to slide deck that will just show the ideas.
And acting and performing to achieve your goal, to convey the message in the most powerful way. Yes.
I watch comedians constantly, these stand-up comedians,
I love it, yeah.
And they're fantastic. What I think is so empowering about a comedian is they engage an audience for an hour and a half is a typical show, maybe an hour and 15 minutes, no breaks. On the stage is typically just a microphone, maybe a stool to put their water on, and that's it. And these comedians will do a few things. First of all, is they'll just go straight presentations. No, they're not looking at notes. They just present. The second thing is they will use the two things on stage, a stool and a microphone stand, as the prompts is the word, where they'll use it to be a component of their performance. It's unbelievable how many things a stool can be. All of a sudden you're in a car. Next thing, it's used to fend off a demon. It's unbelievable how few things can become so many things because of the power of the mind. Comedians know how to invoke the audience's mind to be super engaged. So I study them consistently so I can use those elements too.
And it's a message for entrepreneurs. So with this few things, you can create something. So you don't have to have all these finances in the world and the the latest gadgets and et cetera, et cetera. Some use your imagination, use your some things which are close at hand, and you can kind of put together and make.
Yeah, sometimes those things become detriments, right? So if you have money, you have a network of contacts, you have the experience, those things can actually be damaging. Exactly. The money allows you to make big mistakes in a big way and not feel the pain. And that's a problem because now you don't know what you're doing wrong. A network of contacts to sell to simply means you're not validating your offering. They're people that have an affinity to you. They like you or something like that. It doesn't really mean your offering's good. And if you've experienced, that can be the worst thing, because experience is replicating what other people do. The lack of experience is where we sometimes bring about great innovations. We challenge the norms of the industry. So it's ironic, but sometimes it's those lack of things that's your biggest asset. It doesn't feel like it, but it is.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And I think on that wonderful point, I think I don't, feel comfortable taking more of your time. But I think this is really a great allegory. And if you can use it in one of your books, like comedian really and entrepreneur and having small things. So I feel proud of myself that I pointed it out.
I love it.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. Thank you. And I really do hope that I'll see you live in my part of the world, that there'll be a time when you could travel. And I know that your seminars were a big success. And we didn't mention the testosterone issue as well, because you are getting a lot of testosterone. I interviewed John Gray, who is a good friend of mine, and he was at one of his talks in February. It was like just before the curtain went down on coronavirus. He was in Kiev. Yeah. And he said, "Oh, I feel tired." He was talking to the audience. "Can you clap louder, louder?" And then he was like, obviously was regenerating, and said, "My testosterone is going up because I feel appreciated. I feel your energy." And then he was, talking for another, 5 hours. And so that's something what we need as a speakers, and you need as a speaker, and also
I love that
direct message really with the communication with the audience.
Last time I was in Eastern Europe was 30 years ago. I went to Moscow. I went to St. Petersburg. I would love to return. I'd love to return.
Very different countries, very different.
I can't even imagine in my mind how much has changed. That's why selfishly I want to come back. But I also wanted to spread the word of what I know with amazing entrepreneurs in Eastern Europe, and let's change this world for the better as entrepreneurs.
Yeah, we'll do our utmost to make it happen.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much, Mike. Have a lovely day and take care.
Bye-bye.